stream.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for Twitch.
Okay.
Twitch is just confirmed. I'm going to go wait for YouTube. YouTube has just confirmed. I'm going to wait for Facebook. Facebook has just confirmed. Okay, do you have your timer set, Deidra?
Yes.
You got it set for 58 minutes?
55.
55 is good.
Okay.
Okay. So what you should do, start the timer.
Okay, start it.
And when you clap your hands, you will be on the air.
Hello and welcome to Talking Peace. I am your host, Deidra EmEl, Executive Director of the WNY Peace Center. Thank you for joining us today. We first like to begin our radio show with a Thanksgiving, connecting to our Haudenosaunee brothers and sisters. Of course, we are on stolen land, and we just want to acknowledge that this land was stolen, and that the land that we tread upon is sacred and to our brothers and sisters, and we just had Indigenous Peoples Day on Monday, and that was only it's a few, which is great throughout the year, but instead of Columbus Day, we're starting to acknowledge who the day is truly for, and it's to acknowledge the lives that were stolen, that were taken in order to take this land. So we acknowledge that. We also acknowledge in Thanksgiving the earth and the traditions, Indigenous traditions of to acknowledge the earth. And we are thankful for the living creatures. We are thankful for the plants and the animals. We are thankful for the human lives. And we appreciate the human lives that are in existence. And we are thankful for the love that still exists in the world. We are thankful for the water and the living creatures within the waters. We are thankful, just for the universe and how everything works together in its time. So at the end of our Thanksgiving, in a traditional Haudenosaunee Thanksgiving, we would say Nyahweh, and the people would say Nyo in acknowledgement. So Nyahweh.
Nyo.
Thank you. So today we wanted to talk about freedom for Iran. And we have our guest, Nadia Shahram. She is an activist and attorney here in the United States and in Buffalo, to give us more information about what's going on presently in Iran, and some of the protests. Give us more information of what's of the protests and the present situations. We also like to thank Richard Ricca, our producer. Thanks, Richard. And WNY 91.3 FM for just being consistent and keeping our show on. So let's get right into it. Freedom for Iran. Nadia, will you tell us more about yourself and your background?
I was born and raised in Iran, and when I was a teenager, about 15, 16 years old, the family decision was for me to come to Western country, United States, and continue with my studies. And I, at that time, I wanted to become an investigator, investigating journalist. So Barbara Walter, I had seen her on TV when she had come to Tehran to interview the Queen and King of Iran at that time. And as a child, I just fall in love with her job that she interviews these kings and queens and tells their story. And I am the fourth oldest one from the top out of 6 sisters, 6 girls in my family. And my parents being educated, and my father was also a journalist, and they allowed me to come here, but we didn't have any families at that time in United States. So I was sent to Canada because I had an uncle in Canada at that time. And then in 79, when revolution happened, where president at that time, Iran was under monarchy, and Shah Pahlavi was toppled by the Islamic Republic at that time, and I was sent again. My family decided for all of them to move to United States. So I finished my high school in Toronto, and I came to the closest and to the most fabulous and friendliest and city of wonderful, wonderful neighbors in action. I moved to Buffalo. And then I went to UB and finished my undergrad and my graduate studies. When I knew I cannot become a successful media person, journalist, because of my accent at that time, there was nobody with accent on TV at that time. And so I changed the careers and I became a lawyer.
Well, I think that's just still a wonderful, wonderful career, one way or the other, because you get to tell people stories. Mm-hmm. Even as a lawyer, you have to tell, the person you're defending, their story, and help people to see the humanity, of others. And show other, just points of view. And so I think it's, two very important jobs.
Mm-hmm. Well, I am very happy with my choice because I am a mediation attorney, and I do resolve issues right in the privacy of my office, with people directly, instead of going and fighting in courts, which I think only criminals should go to court and not families, not when it's matter of relationship between different family members, in particular husband and wife. But I have to say that my studies at UB Law School and combined with my mother and both my grandmothers as activists at their own level, at their own communities, then in Iran, made me who I am today, made me to care about human and humanity, and to be very active in the community, and I get involved in many causes because I truly believe that it is my civil duty that I have to get involved and help as much as I can.
And let me ask you this, and excuse my ignorance. I noticed that you said, you had 6 daughters, you have 5 other siblings.
Yes.
Right? Wow. Now, I know that different places, and I can't say, like which countries which at the moment, but I know have certain views on women in education or becoming educated. So what is the views of Iran, if you can tell me, and what was the views of your family, back then? Was it in sync, or was it quite different?
Well, when I was growing up in Iran was a secular country. And I was from a middle-class family. My mother, for that time, was educated not so much through schooling, because she was married off at age 15, so she was, I believe, maybe the 8th grader when she was married off. But she taught herself, I would say, more than what perhaps she learned up to 8th grade. She was an avid reader. She was a writer, and she truly believed in women's liberation. My dad definitely a feminist, and so we were not, perhaps, and I underline perhaps, not a typical family where having 6 girls was perhaps created a little bit of discomfort, especially for my mom, but not so much for my father. And one of the reasons that I was able to come here was that my parents recognized that I really want to become a journalist, and their dreams and my dream was to become Iranian Barbara Walter and go back to Iran. And then the revolution happened, and this didn't happen. So I just stayed here, and then they all moved here.
Wow. Okay. That's very interesting. Just, telling your story.
If I may give you some statistics, because you asked about if girls perhaps are more educated or not. I think that when I was growing up in Iran, perhaps for higher education in universities, it was 50-50, because to be educated for female is extremely important among Iranians, and they practice that. I practiced that with my own 2 daughters, and of course my mother practiced that with 6 of us. But right now, even under the dictatorship of the government, it's 60% ratio for young females in higher education, in graduate schools, compared to 40% of men.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, that's interesting too, because I think that, over in the West, if we're not educated, if we don't, really, look into, separate the countries and look at, okay, whose law is what, like I didn't know that Iran was a secular country at one point. And I didn't, and that's surprising for me, just because I just didn't have the knowledge that it's more females in higher education, college and universities, than males. So, and I think that helps, like when you bring about facts, it helps to put different issues in perspective, even for the Western world. Because if I just grouped everyone together in Middle East, all the women are uneducated, everybody can't drive, no one respects women, but I don't think it's that, in that way for everybody. So I think it's very important to separate, and give facts for each situation and country.
If I may give you a very, very, I guess, I don't want to say very popular, because I don't know how popular Handmaid's Tale on Netflix. Are you familiar with that series?
Yes.
So just imagine that really is what happened to Iran. So what those people were faced, just freedom, regular, ordinary, average life, and then what happened during, I don't know, to me that is very, very disturbing, even on a screen. But that is really closer to what happened in 1979, when Iranian revolution against the monarch of Pahlavi regime just took a twist, and it was more like a Islamic government, Islamic Republic, robbed the coup d'etat, robbed the revolution from the people.
Okay. Very interesting. Okay. Wow. So now we come to the today, and how would you describe the present situation and why the protests?
So since the revolution of 79, until 79, Iran was a socially democratic country.
Okay.
So 79 and on, for the last 43 years, over 4 decades, Iranians' rights, freedom to speak, freedom freedom of association, to have agencies, that was taken one by one from people. But what women have lost is by far greater than what men have lost. And one of the main things that has been fought number of times in public is this mandatory cover. So this is a very strict dress code. As I just said a few minutes ago about the popular show of Handmaid's Tale on Netflix, that all the women have to appear certain way in public. And all the educated women who were in high positions, if their point of view was different, even slightly from that of the government, then they were set back and they were demoted and they were put in prison. They were pushed back so much that women had no choice but to resign from that position. We had judges, we had several ministers that were female, we had women in the parliament, in the Congress. So everything just changed, but it wasn't an overnight change. It was slowly that rights were taken away. And the basic thing, how to appear for women in public, a strict dress code made itself after 5 years into criminal penal code, which means that you cannot appear in public without that dress code or you'll be arrested. And so the morality police were created. Okay. And this morality police, they walk around in public and they have the right to stop, detain, harass, and arrest also women, individuals who are walking. And sometimes for as it was the case with Mahsa Amini in September 16, that the reason was her scarf was not tight enough. Some of her hair was shown.
Oh, wow. So her scarf wasn't tight enough to cover around, was it also around the neck type of hijab?
So it wasn't that she was not, she was not dressed properly as they had reported it, because there are so many pictures of her. She was visiting Tehran with her brother, and she was just, the knot on the scarf was not enough, was not tight enough. So that shows that they could arrest you for anything.
Mm-hmm. So she wasn't a citizen. She was actually visiting the country.
She was visiting from another province, from Kurdish province.
Kurdish, okay. Wow. And so it wasn't tight enough, so she was detained. And then how was she with the morality police? Does it go through the same type of court system?
No.
Or how is it? How is she deemed criminal?
So when they arrest you, these morality police, they usually are in a group of 3 to 6 or 7 people, and some of them are female, fully covered, and they approach the girl, and they're always surrounded by male. And these males, usually they don't carry guns, but they carry batons. And there are videos that she was hit several times on her head. And that is what usually they do, because women resist arrest, because if you are taken, sometimes that's it. You know, your family, they do not find you, they don't know of your whereabouts, and they may just receive a call that go and pick up the body of your daughter miles down the residence. And that has been happening, by the way. And you know, I myself, as an Iranian citizen here, as mother of two daughters, I have been crying. And before, when I speak, like last couple of weeks, I couldn't speak without stopping and sobbing. But I have gone through what my Iranian sisters have gone through in Iran. Is like crying is enough. We have to call for action. We have to see how we can prevent this from happening to our other girls and sisters. And since then, 150 other youngsters, all teenagers, have been murdered.
Wow. Wow. So, and they have been murdered for the morality codes.
So now they used to have batons only. They used to have tear gases, and they used to just drag, pull hair. Hair is very important, I guess, in among Islamic countries. And that's why you see that women are cutting their hair to show defiance with the government. And also they are burning the cover. They remove the cover in public and they burn it, even though they are well aware that this could be punishable by death. But they cannot stop this public mourning any longer. So what started as a innocent piece of cloth, because they say that, you know, they don't want to be covered, right? They slogans from freedom and no compulsory hijab. So that those were the beginning of the slogans. And shortly thereafter, it has changed drastically to death to dictate.
Wow. Because after, what my friend always says, it's about the dishes, but it's not really about the dishes. Like when, you have people arguing about something that seems so trivial. It seems so trivial. Excuse me. We're really looking at a larger issue, and what is the root of, of this issue. And I know for some women, from what I've seen and talked to different women that will wear the hijab, they will wear the niqab, and so on, the face covering, and they will say it's freedom, for them. It's their choice, usually, or, in their tradition. But, I've heard, on both ends, like where it's not it's not a captivity to wear a hijab for many women. Why do you think it went to dealing with the dictatorship? What other laws and other issues do the Iranian women deal with that are unjust?
I think a better question would be to ask opposite of that, because everything is compulsory in Iran now. Iran is a rich country. Iran is a wealthy country, but now 80% of Iranians are living they are in poor conditions living. But the 20% percentage that are with the government, morality police, and the police around the morality police, and the people who are in direct connection with the supreme leader, with the president, the 20%, they are holding all the money, and they are living very lavish lifestyle, and their children are in United States, in Europe. They are buying these $1 million worth of homes all over America and Europe.
Now,
And yes, these are the money from that, those 80% of Iranian that are tired of having the wealth that belongs to all of them goes to certain percentage. And so it's compulsory hijab is really not a trivial thing, Put it in the context of compulsory everything. You cannot go out to certain places. You cannot become a judge with the voting rights if you are a female. You cannot practice certain religions. You cannot send your children to university if you belong to certain religion. We have about 1 million people, prisoner of conscience in Iranian jails. So if you don't practice what they preach, irrespective of whether you are Muslim, Jew, Baha'i, Christian, you will go to jail. They do not distinguish between Muslims, between Baha'is, between Christians and Jews. They have their own Taliban regime. It's which is a terrorist, which is terrorism as a government, and that's why we have to stop it.
Wow. Do you think that? What do you think? What do people hope that these particular protests? Because the cutting of the hair is, like you said, it's very important. As far as the hair and so on, is very important. In the Middle East, and you mentioned it as a way of mourning in public to cut the hair.
It's mourning, and it shows defiance, because the way Iranian government is practicing Islam is that no hair should be shown, otherwise man will go crazy. That is basically the concept, right? So you are responsible to control our man on the street by dressing very modestly, meaning putting a loose, dark cloth over you, and then cover your hair entirely. So you are in charge in a way to keep man safe from going crazy.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Well, no. I do believe in self-accountability. I don't believe that that people need to be, that you're responsible for someone else's thoughts and feelings and so on. However, as far as in a society, I think this is my personal view, not the Peace Center, but my personal view is that I do think that, we are influenced as human beings. We influence one another, and we can influence, to the good. We can influence, to the bad, or, what may be considered bad. And can we arouse thoughts for each other? Yes. It again, good or bad. But, once you start to cover one thing, who's to say another thing isn't sexual or sexually arousing or what have you, whether it's ankles or, or your ears or, there's certain things, and it's different in different cultures. So I don't think it's a same thing that you can really put across cross boundaries. You know what I'm saying? Because we all come up with different norms, social norms. But I don't think, people are responsible for other people's thoughts. I think we are responsible for our own thoughts. And for what we do with those thoughts. But I do think we all have a responsibility to our next human being, so whatever that means for each person, that is different, if you know what I'm saying.
So from headscarf, from mandatory dress code, right? Then we go to women not being allowed to leave the country without the permission of their father or their husband. This is in the law of personal law in Iran, family code, and I'm not talking about minors. I'm talking about women up to age 40. So imagine I'm an attorney and I was 40 years old. I go to Iran. If I was married in Iran, my husband was Iranian, and my husband was a homemaker, he could make me not able to leave the country. Right. We are talking about discrimination, not just between sexes, between gender, that man can hold many employment that women cannot.
Yes.
But these dictatorship, it has affected the entire population. So it is not just women on the street saying death to dictator. They started, and it is actually the largest women-led revolution in Iran history, that women are up front. And what is so heartwarming for us over here to see is that they are being supported by their brothers, sons, fathers, and husbands.
And that's what needs to happen. Yes. I think that with any revolution, any change truly for women, women must speak up for those changes to happen. Yes, we'll speak for ourselves, we'll stand up, but until men that empathize, that sympathize, that understand, that see truth, that see justice, until they speak up and stand up, that's where real change can start to happen, because it's a change of, the mind first, right? It's the transforming of the mind. And then that can help to transform, the government. I believe, I learned that 58%, when they polled how many people basically believed in wearing the hijab in public, was about 58% of the public said, as far as compulsory or mandated hijab, almost, half. A little bit over half. So it's basically the public is kind of divided on this, on this issue, which I also, thought was quite interesting. Where do you think, I guess in a little bit more detail, where do we want change to truly happen? As far as, do we want to change the codes to, compulsory to non-compulsory? Do we want to just change the regime, period? Are we talking about, just taking them completely out of, their seats? Like, what are we going for here?
I think what started about now 4 weeks ago, perhaps over 3 weeks ago, that was compulsory hijab, and then being affected by economics, right? And being effective by all age groups. What makes this time around different than 2018, 2019, then 2009 and 2015, when it was only about where is my vote. It was about having a voice in the presidential election. It was about green movement. It was purely economics. No, this is about regime change, because those who are on the streets, they are from school age to my age and my mother age group. We have all ages on the street, and their uniform in saying enough is enough, because there is no future for these youngsters. The future is very bleak for them. So they are saying we have nothing to lose.
Okay.
For over 4 decades, they listen patiently to the supreme leader that it is America's fault, it is Israel's fault, it is other countries' fault, but mainly United States. We are like the all go. When anytime anything goes wrong, America is to blame and Israel is to blame. Now, these are the same children who were born during this dictatorship. And now they are realizing that they cannot continue life this way. And that's why now it has become from where is my vote, from hijab, compulsory hijab, from economic issues, it has become, this is it, we are not going back. And they are asking for regime change.
So if they change the regime, what are they changing it to? What type of government? What type of economic system are people protesting for?
The only thing right now that people can see in Iran, and if there are things going on behind doors, among these different groups that you and I are not aware of, the only thing that people are certain is that they are asking for a regime change.
Okay.
And because Iran is a wealthy country, because Iran is the fourth producer of oil in the world, and we have rich minerals, we have gas, and we have a very educated population. And 80% of people are under the age of 22. So it's a very young country, and it's a very, very energetic country as well, because they believe in education, hard work and education, and they want to have a good life. So we don't know what kind of regime change is going to take place, whether the previous monarch family, because his son, who was going to inherit the monarchy, he's here in United States. He's an attorney, and his wife is an attorney, and they do have quite a bit of population who are supporting them also in Iran. But he does not wish to return unless there is more support for him among people. Again, because I believe he's a human rights attorney.
Okay.
So right now, I have to tell you that whomever I have spoken to and whomever I have heard on TV, they're saying anything is better than theocracy. Anything is better than dictatorship, whether it's going to be presidential, without having the mixture of secularism, with the church, without having that kind of a regime. They want democracy. And again, people are right now fighting, and they are giving their lives to get rid of this present government. And anything could happen.
Are you worried that because you have people that are around the world, including here, that are reactionaries? Something happens, even though it's something bubbles up. It's always an issue, but now it has bubbled up to the top. And now people are in the streets. But you have many people that are just reacting, but don't have a future plan. Are you concerned with because you don't have an idea about the the regime that you want, or the type of government that you want, to take place. Are you worried that basically it'll just be a change of dictatorship and not necessarily, more of a democratic or, whatever that the Iranian people are looking for?
Mhm.
You don't have a plan.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I think from sitting here talking with you, I'm saying that I don't see a plan that is being advertised, right? So there are things that could be happening that you and I are not aware of. But Iranian, they have lived in democracy and they want democracy. They do not want theology. They do not want mixture of church and government. Iran is by far more of a nationalistic country than a religious country. And what during the last 4 decades of having basically clergies running the country and controlling the wealth of Iranian, they're sick and tired of that, and they are not going to go back to that.
Okay. Wow. So going back to this young lady, she was convicted by the morality police on the spot, from what I'm gathering, and she died. Now, how did it come to the point that she lost her life?
So from videos that we have seen that are taken by just bypassers or people who were just standing around and begging the morality police to release this girl, they drag this young girl. So in particular, this one woman, Mahsa, they drag her on the asphalt, on the street itself. And they keep hitting her because she's scared and she's screaming, she's yelling, she's begging not to be taken, because to be taken, it means a lot. Yeah. And so the story from what we have seen that people have produced is that they keep hitting her on the head, and they keep saying, these girls, these morality women would say that just shut up, keep your voice down, we will take you will sign a confession, and then we'll see. Because as soon as they will arrest these young girls or men, they beat them up, and then they take confession, and many times they die under the beating and or release after some time. So couple of guys get involved, couple of men who are patrolling the morality police. They call pastoran. So they get involved, and one of the head of that unit, he hits her couple of times directly on the head. And you can see that blood start coming from around her ears, and they drag her, and you see her brother on the ground because the brother was walking with this young woman. Yeah. So they drag Mahsa to the van and they disappear. So 3 days later, they say she passed away in the hospital. So after Mahsa, which you might have heard her name, that that she has sparkled this unity and also this uprising among people. Several other women, with, I don't want to say in a worst way, have been killed. It is this 16 years old girl.
150 more women, from what I'm reading in the news, since September
16. Many other women. One in particular that has really put more fuel into this uprising. 16 years old Nika from province of Lorestan, that she was arrested for her hijab not being proper. She was raped and she was thrown from a roof of a building. So, and then they give the body back to the family, and family, as they are preparing to have this very elaborate mourning, which adds more fuel to the uprising, they kidnap the dead body. These are not tales that I'm telling you. These are facts. They kidnap the body and bury her at a few, like a few kilometers in another place. So the family had to stop what they were planning to do, very public memorial, and all go to this new place that their daughter is buried. And when people from United States and all around the world, they sent condolences to the mother, she published a statement that don't send condolences for me, say death to the government and be part of the revolution.
Wow. I'm speechless. I know I've read and I've heard of such abuse before, but to, just, to have it still being, just done, within this, 2022, in this day, in this age, it's barbaric. I'm just speechless. A 16-year-old that is still learning, that's still, just finding out about herself and, surrounded by family. She's not, alone. To be treated this way, I think it's not just a regime, but I keep going back to the process of changing the minds of people, changing what people think. Like, what do you, like, where do this idea about the abuse of women, or women being 50%, of man, of a man's status, what have you, where do you think this has come from? Whether, religiously or secular, what, where did these ideas do you think has, come from, for Iran in particular?
The idea of patriarchy, right, is under the government of Iran, under the Islamic regime, Iran has become, the government has become a misogynistic and patriarchal dictatorship. And the idea comes just from that around the world, including in our own United States of America, there are entitlement if you are a man. So the idea of inequality between the sexes is universal. And when there is a corrupted government installed in a country, it affects women more than affects men. And misogyny is part of the culture. And if we say that the Islamic government, they say they are practicing Islam, they are not, because there is nowhere in the Holy Book of Quran that one can point to, and I'm talking about the Quran, the actual book, not the interpretation, not the translation. There is no place in the Quran that says to treat your women so poorly and badly. Compulsory hijab does not exist in Islam.
Okay. And that's what I've heard, before. So yes. Okay. I'm sorry, continue.
Yeah. So modesty in your appearance, yes, that exists in Islam. And that refers to what you were saying before about hijab, that it's the individual responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
So based on my reading as a Muslim feminist, it's in line with humanity, with human rights. I look at human rights, then I look at different verses in Quran for interpretation. I am not going to look at Quran and interpret it based on 6th, 7th century of Arabia. I am going to interpret it based on the standard of human rights that we have. And we should practice human rights regardless of what religion we may practice.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I think this is a great discussion. I really appreciate you, being on with us today. Today. Now we just recently had a protest. We're coming to a close, but you recently had a protest this past Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us more about what you plan on doing going forward and how people can support and join in?
Mm-hmm. Right now we are trying to find a place and set a date for a public forum, for a more like a hall meeting, for a town hall meeting. We want to have our representatives, and we want to have our Buffalonians, whether they are originally from, with the Iranian background, Iraqi background, Afghani background, or from Cheektowaga. We want public and we want our representatives, because yes, it is good to raise awareness. Yes, it is good to appear in different rallies and to say the slogans that my sisters in Iran are relying on, such as freedom to women, right? Or say her name, Mahsa Amini. So these things will give them more power, more inner power to continue with their fight. But we have to also push through our representatives for a change from our American government towards a dictatorship. We do not want to support a dictatorship. We want, the same way that we push for democracy in our own country, we also want to push for democracy outside of our country. And if we stop supporting the dictatorship, is not going to last. We should not allow the president to come here and criticize us and our president here. We should not shake hand with murderers, right? They are murderers. They kill innocent people in Iran, and then they come here and talk about human rights violations.
I see. Yes. Now, how do you have a website or a way that people can get into contact with you?
My website is attorneynadia@gmail.com, and this is the best website to get me. And there is no time to talk about. I do have coalition for advancement of Muslim women, that I do help with a scholarship for Muslim women. I do support different causes right here in Western New York for Muslim women. But this is a unique tragedy that we have to take care of right away. And if public is interested, I am very active, and I would appreciate it if we have more people joining the struggle for women, for Iran, for freedom for Iran.
Mm-hmm. Very good. So if anyone is interested, please email Nadia at attorney Nadia. Nadia is spelled Nadia at gmail.com. You can also reach us at the Western New York Peace Center at WNYPeace.org. If to help you get in touch with Nadia as well. And let's look forward to the town hall meeting to see how we can support our sisters in Iran from Buffalo, and how we can even support the Iranian families here in Buffalo as they support their families across the seas. So we are coming to a close. I'd just like to say thank you all for listening to Talking Peace. We have been talking peace with Nadia Shahram, activist and attorney, and talking about the freedom for Iran. Remember our annual dinner is coming up. Our 55th annual dinner is coming up November 11th. We have our guest speaker, Leah Penniman of Soulfire Farms coming in. So go to our website, WNYPeace.org, to learn more about our dinner, how to support food security and peace and environmental sustainability. So until next time, be in peace inside, in your heart, in your community, in your families. And you're listening to 91.3 FM radio, WBNY, Talking Peace. Have a good night. Have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you so much.